Hey guys, Paul here from Military History Gear Review. And as you can see, I am indoors. That is because our region is under a stay-at-home order and all the state parks in the state have closed. So I will be doing the next couple reviews from the comfort of my own home. Now today, I've got some gear that unfortunately is pretty popular right now, and that is an old Warsaw Pact made gas mask. This particular model is a Polish MC-1 gas mask. And the reason they seem to be so popular, at least on sites like eBay, is because people are buying them believing that they are going to prevent their infection by the novel coronavirus. And I wanted to make this video to put it out there that this will not protect you from the coronavirus and is in fact dangerous. The people that are selling this are actually actively harming you. Now, to be clear, you can buy this mask without the filter, and if you want to use it to scare your kids or mess with your wife or complete your Halloween costume, then by all means, they're fun, they're weird, they're a little creepy. It's great for that. But do not buy it thinking that it will protect you from the coronavirus. So to understand why, we got to talk a little bit about military protective gear. So military gas masks during the Cold War were designed for the threats that they expected soldiers to face on the battlefield. And in general, these come in three categories: nuclear, biological, and chemical. Now, nuclear threats are, of course, the threats not of necessarily a nuclear weapon, because obviously no gas mask is going to save you from a nuclear explosion. But the belief at the time, especially among the Soviet military planners, was that they would bomb either bases or cities with nuclear weapons, and then ground troops would enter. And those ground troops would be exposed to radioactive particles and ash in the air, and they would breathe that in. And getting radiation exposure in your lungs is extremely dangerous and extremely harmful. So by issuing soldiers gas masks and filters, it kept the radioactive particles from landing on their face and from breathing it in. Now, as far as the chemical threats, that's the threat of the use of chemical compounds that are hazardous or poisonous to humans. These include things like chlorine and mustard gas. They also include deadly nerve agents like sarin or VX that destroy human beings' nervous systems. And these masks, of course, prevent you from breathing in those chemicals, but also because they cover the face, eyes, and mucous membranes, they prevent those chemicals from landing on the skin of the face. And they would generally be used as part of a system that covered the soldier's entire body. Now, the third and final category we want to talk about, the one that's most relevant to today, is what they classed as the biological threat. Now, this is weaponized versions of diseases that already existed. An example might be bacteria like anthrax, cholera, or tularemia. It also included viruses like hemorrhagic fevers and smallpox, right? The idea was that enemies would deliberately infect troop formations in order to diminish their fighting capacity. What we need to talk about is the danger and why this system isn't going to be terribly effective at preventing the coronavirus. Now, it's true that the planners recognize that this mask prevents the infection by biological agents by covering the face and nose and eyes, right? And it prevents soldiers from touching an infected surface and then touching their faces. And we see that even today, medical professionals in a lot of hospitals will wear eye protection and a face shield and a respirator, right, to protect their entire face from being infected. So the militaries of the Cold War also recognized this reality. However, the problem is that this mask's filter, right? And as we know with coronavirus, the way it's spread most commonly is through inhaling the virus. So we know that this mask, right, relies on a filter in order to prevent the virus from entering. And it does so in two stages. The first stage is a fabric air filter, similar to the air filter in your car, where And that's meant to catch particulate. That's meant to catch that radioactive particulate before it enters the lungs. And the second phase uses something called activated charcoal. Now, activated charcoal is the exact same thing that's left over when you burn wood in a fire. It's just carbon. And the process of activation is a chemical process that on a molecular level causes the carbon to open up and become more porous and have a greater surface area. Now, the reason charcoal is effective at stopping chemical or biological agents is because we are organic, i.e. made of carbon, and these compounds are also organic compounds, i.e. made of carbon. And so when they pass through an area with a lot of carbon in it, they're going to stick to it. They're going to bind with it through a process called absorption with a D. Now, of course, it operates just like a glue trap for rodents. But like a glue trap for rodents, right, there's a limit to how much stickiness is available to capture these viruses and bacteria. And in fact, these filters are only supposed to be effective for 8 hours of breathing. So this only has enough charcoal to capture these organic compounds for 8 hours. Now, this and most Warsaw Pact filters were manufactured over 30 years ago. And so if you had the most modern, high-tech filter available, that has a shelf life of about 5 years if stored properly. The $80 filter with the longest shelf life that I could find has a shelf life of 20 years. But these were stored in a Soviet warehouse, not vacuum sealed, probably stored in awful conditions. So there's no way this is anywhere near its shelf life, right? And just by sitting there in that environment, that charcoal was slowly binding with whatever random organic compounds were just in the air. Regular bacteria, particulate, anything that's out there. So over time, this charcoal has probably lost all of its ability to absorb the viruses, bacteria, or chemicals that it would be exposed to. Now, if people were just selling you fraudulent filters that don't do anything, you would rip some people off and it would be upsetting. But in fact, these filters actually harm the user. And that's because of the first stage. You see, in Warsaw Pact countries, they made that car filter-like particle area out of a combination of cotton and asbestos. One lab tested it and found that about 7% of the material in that filter is asbestos. And it's not new asbestos. Again, it's 30-year-old asbestos that is degraded a lot over time. And so when you breathe this in, you're taking every breath you make, all that air is running through a very dense weave of very old degraded asbestos, right? Companies have spent hundreds of millions of dollars not only remediating buildings and removing asbestos because of how dangerous it is, but they've lost millions of dollars in lawsuits to people that have been killed or permanently disabled because of their exposure to asbestos. So the fact that you are selling people a filter that deliberately infects all of the air they breathe with asbestos is borderline criminal, right? And so if you want to purchase this mask to have fun as a goofy joke, by all means do so. But never purchase these old Soviet filters. Not only are they ineffective, but they will actively harm you. So that's all I had for today, guys. Please remember to stay safe. If you do need to purchase a face mask, please look at the CDC's recommendations. They will definitely communicate to you which masks are going to be safe and effective. And that's your best bet to find something that's going to be suitable for you and your families. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like. Also, subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments if there's any other outdoor gear that you want me to take a look at. And until next time, I will eventually see you guys on the trail.